What happens when a member of the British royal family decides they know better than one of America's most beloved late-night hosts? What happens when entitlement meets entertainment, when privilege clashes with comedy? Tonight we dive into one of the most shocking moments in late-night television history, a moment that left audiences stunned, producers scrambling, and security guards doing something they never thought they would have to do. This is the story of how Prince Harry managed to get himself physically escorted off The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And trust me, you won't believe how this all went down. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below because this story is absolutely wild. The Ed Sullivan Theatre was buzzing with anticipation. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, was scheduled to appear on The Late Show to promote his latest charitable initiative. What seemed like a routine celebrity interview was about to become anything but routine. Stephen Colbert, known for his sharp wit and ability to handle even the most difficult guests, was preparing for what he assumed would be a straightforward conversation about philanthropy and royal life in America. The interview began innocently enough. Colbert welcomed Prince Harry with his trademark charm. "Your Royal Highness, welcome to The Late Show. How are you enjoying life in California?" Prince Harry, settling into his chair with an air of impatience, responded curtly, "Well, Stephen, first of all, I prefer just Harry now. The whole Royal Highness thing is part of what I left behind, and frankly, I thought your research team would have briefed you on that." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Colbert, maintaining his professional composure, smiled and nodded. "Of course, my apologies, Harry. So tell us about this new initiative you are working on." But Harry was not ready to move on. "You know, Stephen, this is exactly the kind of thing that frustrates me about American media. You invite someone on your show, you claim to want to have a real conversation, but you cannot even be bothered to get the basic details right. How am I supposed to trust that anything else you say tonight will be accurate?" Colbert's eyebrows raised slightly, sensing the unexpected tension. "Well, Harry, I think most people would consider being called your Royal Highness a sign of respect, but I hear you. Let's talk about your work with veteran mental health services." "That's another problem," Harry interrupted, his voice growing more agitated. "You people always want to focus on the veterans angle because it makes for good television. But what about the broader mental health crisis? What about the systemic issues that create these problems in the first place? Are we going to have a real conversation tonight, or are we just going to hit your predetermined talking points?" The studio audience was now completely silent. This was not the charming, relatable Prince Harry they had expected. Colbert, a master of handling awkward moments, tried to redirect. "I think that's a fair point, Harry. What systemic issues do you think we should be addressing?" Harry leaned forward, his demeanor becoming more confrontational. "Oh, so now you want to have the real conversation? After I had to call you out on your lazy preparation? Stephen, with all due respect, and I mean that genuinely, you have one of the biggest platforms in American television. You could be using this time to actually educate people about the root causes of mental health struggles, the way society treats people who speak out about their trauma, the way institutions protect themselves at the expense of individuals." "I think we are having that conversation," Colbert replied, his tone remaining steady but with a slight edge creeping in. "But I also think our audience might appreciate some context about your personal experience with these issues." "My personal experience?" Harry's voice rose noticeably. "Stephen, do you have any idea what it's like to have your personal experience dissected, analyzed, and commodified by people who have never walked in your shoes? Do you know what it's like to have your trauma turned into entertainment value?" The irony was not lost on anyone in the studio. Here was Prince Harry, on a talk show to promote his own projects, complaining about his personal life being turned into entertainment. Colbert, sensing the growing absurdity of the situation, could not resist a gentle pushback. "Well, Harry, I have to say, you did write a best-selling memoir about your personal experiences, and you are here tonight to promote your work, so I think it's fair to say you've been willing to share your story when it serves your purposes." The comment hit a nerve. Harry's face flushed with anger, and he sat back in his chair as if he had been physically struck. "Excuse me? When it serves my purposes? Stephen, everything I have done, every interview I have given, every project I have undertaken has been about helping other people. How dare you suggest that I am somehow profiting from my own trauma?" "I did not say you were profiting from trauma," Colbert responded, his voice firm but controlled. "I simply pointed out that you have chosen to make your personal story public, so it seems reasonable that people might want to discuss it. Chosen. Harry's voice was now loud enough that the studio microphones were picking up every word clearly. You think I chose to have my mother die in a car crash while being chased by photographers? You think I chose to grow up in an institution that cared more about protecting its image than protecting its children? You think I chose to have my every relationship, my every mistake, my every moment of grief turned into tabloid headlines? The audience was completely silent now, some looking uncomfortable, others simply mesmerized by the unexpected turn the interview had taken. Colbert, realizing he needed to regain control of the situation, tried once more to steer the conversation back on track. Harry, I think we all have tremendous sympathy for what you went through as a child, and I do not think anyone would suggest you chose those circumstances. But you are here tonight because you want to talk about your current work, so maybe we could focus on that. But Harry was beyond reasoning at this point. Sympathy? Stephen, I do not want sympathy. What I want is for people to understand that when you grow up the way I did, when you experience the kind of institutional gaslighting that I experienced, it changes how you see the world. It makes you hypersensitive to being dismissed, to being misunderstood, to being reduced to talking points and sound bites. I understand that, Colbert said, his patience beginning to wear thin. But Harry, you are not being dismissed here. You are being given a platform to share your message with millions of people. Is not that exactly what you want? Harry stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. What I want, Stephen, is to be treated with the same respect you would show any other guest. What I want is for you to engage with the substance of what I am saying instead of trying to manage me like I am some kind of difficult celebrity who needs to be handled. The tension in the Ed Sullivan Theater was now palpable. Harry remained standing, towering over Colbert, who was still seated behind his desk, trying to maintain some semblance of control over his own show. The audience was frozen, unsure whether they were witnessing a mental breakdown or simply an incredibly awkward television moment. Colbert, drawing on decades of experience handling unpredictable situations, gestured gently for Harry to sit back down. Harry, please, let's just take a breath here. Why don't you sit down and we can continue this conversation? No, I will not sit down, Harry replied, his voice carrying across the studio with surprising force. This is exactly what I am talking about, Stephen. You are trying to manage me, trying to control the narrative. Sit down, calm down, let's get back to our scheduled programming. But what if I do not want to follow your script? The studio cameras continued rolling, capturing every moment of the increasingly bizarre confrontation. Colbert, realizing that his usual charm and wit were not going to defuse this situation, decided to try a more direct approach. Harry, I am not trying to control any narrative. This is a talk show. We have conversations. That's literally what we do here. If you want to have a different kind of conversation, I am happy to do that. But you need to work with me here. Work with you? Harry laughed, but there was no humor in it. Stephen, do you have any idea how many times I have been told to work with people? Work with the palace, work with the press, work with the protocol, work with the system. And where did that get me? It got me a front row seat to watching my own life be destroyed by people who claimed they were trying to help me. But I am literally trying to help you right now, Colbert said, his voice rising slightly. You came on my show to promote your work. I am giving you a platform to do exactly that. But you seem more interested in having some kind of therapy session than actually talking about your charitable initiatives. The words hit Harry like a physical blow. His face went from flushed to pale in an instant, and when he spoke again, his voice was dangerously quiet. Therapy session? Did you just suggest that my attempt to have an honest conversation about institutional trauma is a therapy session? Colbert immediately realized his mistake. Harry, that's not what I meant. No, Stephen, I think that's exactly what you meant. This is what always happens. Someone tries to speak truth to power. Someone tries to explain how these systems actually work, and immediately they are dismissed as needing therapy, as being unstable, as being difficult. Tell me, Stephen, when you criticize politicians on this show, when you call out corruption and hypocrisy, do people tell you that you need therapy? That's completely different, Colbert replied, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Is it? Really? Or is it just different because you are the one with the power in this situation? You are the one with the microphone, the one with the audience, the one who gets to decide what's legitimate criticism and what's a therapy session. The audience was now completely silent, and several people in the front rows were visibly uncomfortable. This had gone far beyond awkward television into something that felt genuinely disturbing. Colbert looked toward his producers offstage, but the cameras were still rolling, and cutting away now would only make the situation worse. "Harry, I think we need to take a commercial break," Colbert said, trying to regain some control. "No," Harry said firmly. "We are not taking a commercial break. We are going to finish this conversation. You opened this door, Stephen, when you decided to dismiss my concerns as a therapy session. So let's talk about therapy. Let's talk about what it's like to be told by an entire institution that your perceptions are wrong, that your memories are faulty, that your reactions are inappropriate. Harry, please. Please what? Please stop making you uncomfortable. Please stop forcing you to confront the reality of what it's like to be gaslit by people in positions of power. Stephen, you make jokes about politicians lying to the public every single night. But when someone tries to tell you about being lied to by the people who were supposed to protect them, suddenly it's time for a commercial break." Colbert stood up now, matching Harry's stance. "You know what, Harry? You are right. Let's not take a commercial break. Let's finish this conversation. But let's be honest about what's happening here. You came on my show. You have been hostile from the moment you sat down. You have refused to engage with any of the questions I have asked, and now you are lecturing me about power dynamics while standing in my studio, on my show, using my platform to air your grievances." "Your show?" Harry's voice was incredulous. "Your platform? Stephen, do you think this show exists in a vacuum? Do you think your audience tunes in to watch you specifically, or do they tune in to see the guests you bring on? Without guests, without people willing to come here and share their stories, you would just be a man sitting behind a desk talking to himself." "That's true," Colbert acknowledged. "But those guests come here because they want something from me. They want to promote their projects, their books, their causes. You are here because you want something from me and my audience. So let's drop the pretense that you are doing me some kind of favor." Harry was quiet for a long moment, and for just an instant, it seemed like he might actually sit back down and try to salvage the interview. But then his expression hardened again, and when he spoke, his voice was cold. "You know what I want, Stephen? I want to be treated like a human being instead of a content generator. I want to have a conversation instead of performing in your little variety show. I want to talk about things that actually matter instead of hitting your predetermined talking points so you can get your sound bites and your viral moments." "Then talk," Colbert said, spreading his arms wide. "The floor is yours, Harry. Say whatever you want to say. Talk about whatever matters to you. I will listen. Will you? Will you really listen? Or will you just wait for your turn to make a joke? Will you engage with what I am saying? Or will you just try to steer the conversation back to whatever your producers told you to ask about?" "I guess we will find out," Colbert replied. "But you have to actually start talking about something other than how unfairly you think you are being treated." Harry stared at him for a long moment, and the silence stretched uncomfortably. The audience was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Finally, Harry shook his head. "This is impossible. This is exactly what I am talking about. You asked me to talk, but you have already decided that anything I say about my actual experience is just complaining. You want me to perform for you, to give you the version of Prince Harry that makes good television. But the moment I try to be honest about what this life is actually like, you shut me down." "I have not shut you down," Colbert said firmly. "You have been talking nonstop for the past 10 minutes. The problem is that you are not saying anything." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Harry's face went through a series of expressions: anger, hurt, disbelief, and finally, something that looked almost like rage. The rage that flashed across Harry's face was unlike anything the Ed Sullivan Theater had ever witnessed. For a moment, it seemed as though he might actually lunge across the desk at Colbert. Instead, he took a step back and let out a bitter laugh that sent chills through the studio audience. "Not saying anything?" Harry repeated, his voice barely controlled. "Not saying anything? Stephen, I have been trying to explain to you for the past 15 minutes what it's like to live in a system designed to silence you. And your response is that I am not saying anything? This is exactly what I am talking about." Colbert, sensing that he had pushed too far, tried to walk back his comment. "Harry, that's not what I meant. I meant that we have not talked about your current projects, which is why you are here. No, Stephen, that's exactly what you meant. And you know what? It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect because you just proved my point better than I ever could. Here I am, trying to have an honest conversation about institutional gaslighting. And what do? You gaslight me. You tell me that my attempt to communicate is not saying anything. Harry started pacing behind his chair, his movements agitated and unpredictable. The camera operators were struggling to keep him in frame, and the audience was now visibly concerned. Several people in the front row had gotten up and moved toward the exits. Harry, I think we really do need to take a break. Now, Colbert said, his voice firm but not unkind. No, Harry shouted, loud enough that his voice echoed through the theater. We are not taking a break. You do not get to dismiss me and then hide behind a commercial break. You do not get to gaslight me on national television and then pretend. It did not happen. The studio fell completely silent except for the hum of the cameras and lighting equipment. Even the crew members were frozen, unsure of what to do. This had gone far beyond anything in their experience. Colbert looked directly into the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Do not you dare, Harry said, moving toward Colbert's desk. Do not you dare cut away from this. This is exactly what they do, Stephen. The moment someone starts telling the truth, the moment someone refuses to play along with the game, they cut away. They take a break. They protect the institution and they silence the individual. Harry, you need to calm down, Colbert said, standing up and backing away from his desk. Calm down. Calm down. Stephen, do you have any idea how many times I have been told to calm down? How many times people have used those exact words to dismiss everything I was trying to say? My entire life, every time I have tried to speak up about injustice, about hypocrisy, about the way this system actually works, someone has told me to calm down. But you do need to calm down, Colbert replied. You are scaring the audience. You are scaring me. Harry stopped pacing and stared at Colbert with a look of complete disbelief. I am scaring you? Stephen, I am a guest on your show. I am one person standing in your studio trying to have a conversation. And I am scaring you? Do you see how this works? Do you see how quickly the narrative flips? The moment someone refuses to be managed, refuses to be controlled, they become the threat. At this point, two security guards had quietly entered the studio and were standing near the wings, ready to intervene if necessary. Harry noticed them immediately. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Now we have security. Because God forbid someone should have an emotional reaction to being systematically dismissed and gaslit. Stephen, do you see this? Do you see what just happened? You could not handle having an honest conversation, so you called security. I did not call security, Colbert said, which was technically true. The show's producers had made that call. You did not have to call them. This is how the system works. The moment someone steps out of line, the moment someone refuses to play their assigned role, the enforcement mechanisms kick in automatically. You do not even have to think about it. One of the security guards stepped forward. Sir, we are going to need you to come with us. Harry whirled around to face the guard. Come with you? Come with you where? What law have I broken? What rule have I violated? I am having a conversation with the host of a talk show. Is that illegal now? Sir, you are disrupting the taping and making people uncomfortable, the guard replied calmly. Making people uncomfortable? Harry's voice cracked with disbelief. Making people uncomfortable? That's the crime now? Having feelings? Speaking truth? Refusing to pretend that everything is fine. Colbert stepped forward. Harry, nobody is saying you committed a crime. But this is not working. This conversation is not working. You came here to talk about your charitable work, and instead we have spent the entire time arguing about media treatment and institutional power. That's not what our audience signed up for. What they signed up for. Harry turned back to Colbert, his eyes blazing. Stephen, your audience signed up to watch human beings have conversations. Real conversations. Not performances, not scripted. Interactions designed to sell products and promote brands. If they are uncomfortable watching someone have actual feelings, if they are uncomfortable seeing what happens when someone refuses to pretend that everything is fine, then maybe that says more about them than it does about me. The second security guard had now moved closer as well, and the two men were flanking Harry, ready to escort him out if he did not leave voluntarily. This is unbelievable, Harry said, looking around the studio as if seeing it clearly for the first time. This is absolutely unbelievable. You invite me here, you claim you want to have a conversation, but the moment I try to be honest, the moment I try to talk about things that actually matter, you call security and have me removed. And you probably think you are the good guys. You probably think you are just doing your jobs, maintaining order, protecting people. We are protecting people, one of the guards said quietly. From what? Harry demanded. From what exactly? Are you protecting them? From hearing about institutional trauma? From witnessing someone have an emotional reaction to being dismissed and gaslight? From seeing what happens when someone refuses to perform their assigned role? Colbert tried one last time to de-escalate. Harry, if you just sit down, if we can just finish this conversation like adults. Nobody has to be escorted anywhere. Harry looked at him for a long moment, and for just an instant, it seemed like he might actually consider it. But then he shook his head. No, Stephen. No, I will not sit down and pretend this is normal. I will not participate in the charade that this is how conversations are supposed to work. You have already shown me exactly who you are and exactly how this system operates. Having me escorted out by security is just the logical conclusion. He turned to face the security guards. Fine, let's go. Let's finish this properly. Let's give Stephen and his audience the ending they really want. The difficult guest removed by security, order restored. Everyone can go back to pretending that this is how civilized people behave. As the guards moved to escort him out, Harry called back over his shoulder. Stephen, I hope this was everything you hoped it would be. I hope you got all the content you were looking for. And with that, Prince Harry was escorted off the late show with Stephen Colbert, leaving behind a stunned audience, a shaken host, and one of the most bizarre moments in late-night television history. The cameras kept rolling as Colbert, clearly rattled, attempted to address the audience and salvage what remained of the show. So there you have it, the complete breakdown of how Prince Harry managed to get himself physically removed from one of America's most popular talk shows. What started as a simple promotional interview turned into a masterclass in how not to be a guest on television. The question remains, though, what do you think? Was Harry right about institutional gaslighting and media manipulation? Or was he simply an entitled celebrity having a public meltdown? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one.